Blood red moon lights my way. Angel found themselves me. Life and death.
I don't want to end this game.
Alright, so we just got some breaking news, and it is absolutely huge for Georgia's basketball schedule. The SEC ACC Challenge has been announced, and this is one I have kind of contemplated on because earlier on I said Clemson. I wanted Georgia to play Clemson, and I felt like it would be odd if Georgia did not get to play Clemson. And then you also, Clemson's a home team, so Clemson will not be hosting. Clemson and Georgia were away teams, so they both will be going home. Virginia Tech and North Carolina State was one of the other teams Georgia could host in the SEC ACC Challenge. Of course, Georgia was the away team last year versus Florida State, coming all the way back from 17 points down to win. We have just got word that Georgia will face Notre Dame Tuesday, December 3rd in the SEC ACC Challenge. That is absolutely amazing. I'll go through December 3rd. Arkansas, Miami, Cal at Missouri, Florida State at LSU, Georgia Tech at Oklahoma, Kentucky at Clemson, Notre Dame at Georgia, Ole Miss at Louisville, South Carolina at Boston College, Syracuse at Tennessee, Wake Forest at Texas A&M, and then the day after, December 4th, Alabama at North Carolina, Auburn at Duke, Pitt at Mississippi State, Texas at NC State, Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech, and Virginia at Florida. So that's the SEC ACC Challenge. I will go ahead and screenshot that. But the biggest news for me is Georgia and Notre Dame. The two teams played in Mike White's first season in State Farm Arena. In the 22-23 season, Georgia won handedly. They played a few times before that in the 2010-11 season, in the 2011-12, in the Old Spice Classic, and another classic that was somewhere else. I do not remember what the name of it was. But this will be the first time in a while that, I believe it might be the first time ever Notre Dame comes to Athens. I will look that up. Georgia basketball history versus Notre Dame. This might be the first time they play, and there actually is nothing on it, so they might not play at all. They might have not played outside of those games. This is for Miami, Ohio, so that definitely is not Notre Dame. Georgia's website kind of does not work anymore when it comes to history, so I don't believe I'll be able to pull that out. So yeah, I will not be able to pull that out. But anyway, I can maybe go on Notre Dame's website, Notre Dame basketball history versus Georgia. Yeah, that brought up football, so that will not come up. Well, I guess you could say they have a historic thing in football. They played in the 1981 Sugar Bowl, national championship. Georgia won, and they played in Notre Dame in 2017. Georgia fans took up the entire stadium, and the Georgia, that win goes on to launch Georgia to the national championship, and then they played in 19 as well. But Georgia and Notre Dame, the SEC Challenge, this would be very interesting. Because I truly felt like Georgia would have to play Virginia Tech or NC State. I don't know why. Somebody said it to me last night too. They were filling those teams. I didn't expect Notre Dame, that's for sure. I did not expect Notre Dame. That's a long trip for the Irish. But my thing, though, is also the 22-23 game. I understand it was a neutral court game. But you could have just played that game at Stegman Coliseum, too, if we're being honest here. That's just how I feel about that. I believe that game could have been played in Stegman. That would have been nice, but then eventually, you would have had to return the trip to South Bend, Indiana. I felt like that would have been the only way you could, have no grudge there. But Georgia and Notre Dame in the SEC Challenge, SEC ACC Challenge. This is wonderful. This was not on my bingo card at all. I did not have, technically I didn't have Georgia playing Florida State last year either, but I really thought, I was looking, okay, when Clemson was out the equation, Clemson was no longer available. maybe Georgia would play NC State, but probably Georgia was going to get a team like Virginia Tech. I was very wrong on that. They're going to get Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. Sure, their basketball team is not as historic as their football team is, but I mean, it's Notre Dame. It's one of the most biggest. Look like this. You see that Irish logo, unless you live in a high school who uses that logo, 99% of the time you're going to answer that logo Notre Dame. So for me, Georgia wins big here. I'll repeat once again, Tuesday, December 3rd, Georgia and Notre Dame, Stegeman Coliseum. There's not been no time announced. There's been no time announced for this game, but Georgia and Notre Dame in the SEC ACC Challenge. Georgia is 1-0 in this challenge. They beat Florida State last year, coming back down from 17 points. Georgia also won the last game versus the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the 22-23 season in State Farm Arena. This was a shock. And I looked at some of the other matchups on this game. I'm just going to go for this real quick. Arkansas, Miami, Clemson, Kentucky at Clemson, Ole Miss, Louisville, Wake Forest, A&M, Texas, NC State, and Virginia, Florida, and Alabama at North Carolina. There's going to be some really good games. Really good games. Auburn and Duke, too. Auburn and Duke might be one of the best games in this entire challenge. But we know what the best game in this challenge will be, and that will be Georgia versus Notre Dame. So, the rumor started last night that this was going to be coming out today, and I was like, well, that's really cool. But once again, I kind of thought Georgia. I was wrong again. I'll gladly admit when I'm wrong. I thought Georgia was going to play a team like Florida, Virginia Tech, or North Carolina State. I wanted Georgia to play Clemson, but the fact that they had not hosted a game yet would make that very unlikely, because you would, over on the Clemson side, if you made them go to Athens, you'd have to Clemson side saying, well, we've been on the road for 2 years. And on our side, if we had to go to Little John Coliseum, it would have been like, well, when are we ever going to get to host? I'm glad they did. I'm glad they did not drop the bomb on this, because I remember talking about earlier in the year when the off season happened just a few weeks ago. What if they gave Georgia a team like Pitt or a team like Virginia, a team they have no history against? Georgia has some history with Notre Dame, and it is mostly powered by their football games they've played, but our basketball games have been just as good too. So, and then not to mention, Georgia is currently on a 1-game winning streak versus Notre Dame. So Georgia, but here's the thing: do you return the trip next year to Notre Dame, or do you just give Notre Dame and Georgia a clean slate next year for the 25-26 season? We'll find that out next year. But for this year, the 24-25 season, Georgia will face Notre Dame at Stegeman Coliseum in the SEC ACC Challenge Tuesday, December 5th. Let's go Hoop Dogs.
The unthinkable, the unbelievable. They beat Arkansas and go wire to wire to win the SEC tournament.